It is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. I'm still on the Blue Ridge Highway. Spent the day hiking and some waterfalls and then packing up into one of the state parks here in South Carolina. And I gotta say, this happened to me last year on my trip cross country. And it's happening to me again. My faith in women is slowly being restored. I mean, New England, it's got to be the colleges. I like to think that women are a little bit smarter than that, but it's got to be these cities and it's got to be the colleges that are these hive minds that suck them in, and then they don't even know what they want. They're just pretending they want what the hive mind is telling them to want, because so first of all, everybody says hi here and I love it. And New Hampshire's similar, but they're still not as friendly like this. Just everybody's like, hi, howdy, hi, howdy. So I'm just playing it by ear, and I see this waterfall sign. So I said, oh, let me go check that out. And I drive back, and I was like, I don't know. And it gets to like a picnic area, and I'm getting out of my car, and I'm a little self-conscious because I'm barefoot and just shorts, no shirt on. And I just like, whatever. And I just had all the windows open and the sunroof open. So I park, I get out, and there's these two young women sitting eating sandwiches on the picnic area right near my car. And one of the women immediately says hi, and I was like, hi. And she's like, you want a sandwich? And I was like, what is literally going on here? And I was like, no thanks. And she's like, you sure? She's like, I made extra. And I was like, not to be rude, but I'm vegan. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I should have made some vegetarian sandwiches. I was like, what is going on here? Is this an FBI honeypot? So I pack my gear on and I go out into this thing to look at the waterfall. And then, I had to stop in the visitors thing and get the map and figure out where it is. The second I get to the waterfall, those two young ladies show up right behind me, and I said, oh, if you go down this part, it's dry. I went the other way and my feet are covered in mud, so I'm going to try and get down to the bank there. And I'm way up on this top part overlooking these waterfalls. And there's a bank down. I don't even know if I can get to it, but I just see it and I was like, I want to try and get to that. So I go down this other path, and I'm going pretty quick, and those women just showed up to the view to check out the waterfall. And they're younger than I am, but I don't know what pace they're going at. So as I'm traveling down, and it's like rocky, it's treacherous, it's narrow, there's overbrush, there's these huge trees that are fallen and that are rotted, that are longer than my legs, so you have to like straddle them and go over the top. It's pretty rough, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be down here, maybe I'm gonna run into a bear. Be on your toes. So I finally get all the way down to the beach, and I was like, oh, this is exciting. I'm on the beach, and I'm in like 200 yards of where the waterfall was up the river. And all of a sudden I hear giggling. Those two girls come right behind me. They frolicking, they run over to the beach, they rip their shoes off, they rip their socks off, and they just like get up in the water. And I'm like, hi, and they're like, hey. And I was like, you made it down here quick? And they're like, yeah, we were cooking. So then the next thing I know, I'm just hanging out with them. I end up taking my shoes and socks off, and we're in the water and we're just talking. And then two more of their friends come, a couple that was lagging behind. And I start talking and asking what, where I should go, and she recommends that I go to Frying Pan Tower. And she says to me, and this is important, she says, oh, you should go where I went for my birthday. I went to Frying Pan Tower. And I said, that's really sweet. I mean, I'm from up north, and the fact that you're just very simple and wholesome, that for your birthday you wanted to go hike a mountain, that's really sweet. That's really nice. She's like, oh, thank you. Yeah, she's like, that's what I always want to do. That's what we always do. So I start talking to the other girl, and she came down for college. She was from Pennsylvania, and she was like, yeah, north is done. She's like, the south is so much nicer. She's like, the schools were tough up there. I felt isolated. Everybody was so welcoming down here. And now, mind you, these women don't have any tattoos on them. They're dressed in like tight shorts, like those stretch pants shorts or whatever, and tank tops, like hiking gear and stuff. So they're not dressed in like dresses, like these, crazy, like it's 1950s traditional women, but they don't have tattoos on, and they're friendly, and they're not wearing makeup, and they're coming up and saying hi, and I'm just like mind blown. So I talked to them a little bit more, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go find out how to get to that peak across the way. And so I went hiking around the whole place on the other side, and just said goodbye. I mean, I'm on vacation, but I mean, there's not really much I'm gonna do. I guess you could grab somebody's number, but I'm 1,000 miles away from home, 1,200 miles away from home. So it's just nice to know that these women exist. So I go up the road, and I see a sign about 20 more miles up that says National State Park. So I go up there, and I get to the top, and I see two women in the distance that are walking out from the trails, and they have packs on. They have packs from water. So I was like, I'm going to ask them, where I should go. And it's very friendly here. So I ran into another couple at the hiking thing, and I stumbled upon them again and said hi. And I was like, yeah, I'm just wandering around. And they're like, us too, we found the same spot. So I walk over, and as I get closer, I realize that it's a mother and a daughter with their dog that just finished the trails. And I was like, excuse me, but do you have a second? I wanted some advice on what I should do before sunset, blah blah blah. So the mother's like, she's the hiker. She loves this. We just came here. Today's her birthday, and she wanted to hike for her birthday. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, first of all, happy birthday. Second of all, I tell her the story of the other girl, and I was telling her how adorable I thought that was and wholesome. And now, not that she's not special, but now I've met two women, and I was like, the South just has these wholesome, outdoorsy women. And she's giggling, and she's giving me all this advice, and I have a list of, I'm actually heading to the place that she recommended right now to camp and hike it tomorrow. She says it's her favorite spot. But we talked about New Hampshire, and she happened to be vegetarian. I'm vegan, so we talked about that for a while. Now her mother's there, and I'm like close to her mother's age. She just turned 23, but like she talked to me, and then I went my separate way, and then I get my pack on and start going up. I was like, it might be too late to go into the woods alone, so let me just go on this like paved way up to this peak of Mount Mitchell and just get the 360 view. And then I realized about halfway up that they're heading up there with the dog for one last trip at the end of the day. So then I get to the top, and I was like, oh, geez, I don't want to be awkward, like I'm following them up here. And like, I don't even get to the ramp to get to this thing. And she's like, hey, Dave, come here. Let me show you something. I was like, this is just insane. Women will not make eye contact with you. They're covered in tattoos. They have rainbow colored hair. When I talk to women in public, I have a thing that I will talk to any woman under the age of like 35-ish, no dyed hair, no tattoos, hopefully wearing a dress, but I took that all off just because that just narrows it too much. I've only seen 2-3 of them in the past 6 months up north. Today alone, by those standards, I talked to 6 women. So I approach, every time I see a woman like that, I approach and talk to them. And I was just spending my time talking to young women today because they're fitting this criteria that I've more than quadrupled my productivity coming down south, I guess is the thing. So I'm sure as you get closer to the cities, maybe it's worse, and maybe if you're on Tinder, it's worse, because when I'm online and I hear these men complaining, they make it sound like a global epidemic. But now that I'm out in the world, when I went to the Midwest, in parts of the West last year, and I got into a hot spring in Wyoming, 2 women immediately came over and sat down next to me, and then they didn't say a word. I struck up a conversation with them, and then they were talkative, and then I ended up getting invited to go get a beer and a taco with them, and I was like, this is crazy. This doesn't happen, but it does happen out here apparently. If you move out of the cities and away from the Borg dens, the beehive mines. So, having said all that, these are very limited conversations. I'm not bringing up politics that much, although I hinted at it a little bit with the last one, because she was saying that she wants to go to New Hampshire and try some of the 4,000 footers and such. But man, her mother's right there. She's 23, and I think she was just being friendly and wholesome. So I was like trying not to be a complete creep. But then the second time that she called me over, I was like, what do you even do? Is she just this friendly? And then when I heard them walking away, and they were, they have to go down and past you the thing, I'm like, she's like, I can't wait to get home. I want to tell Dad everything about what we did today. And I'm just like, and she loves her father and talks to her father. Where am I? So maybe this is just the South. I'm sure in the comments, the men that live in the South will tell me I'm crazy, and this ain't true, and they're just as wild down here, and they're all tattooed, covered, drunken sluts. And maybe that is the case. And maybe it also is the fact that guys have a soft spot for a Southern accent, although these aren't super Southern accents that I've heard yet. But women do enjoy a New England or a Boston accent. So maybe I'm getting the red carpet treatment, and once that wore off, I'd see that it's no different down here than it is anywhere else. But one thing that I will say, like if I lived down here and I was meeting this many women, I would be asking for numbers. I mean, maybe I'm a fool, maybe because it's so mobile right now, and so everybody moves around and travels, and there's so much technology between FaceTime or whatever. Maybe I should have grabbed the numbers of these women and said, let's keep in touch and see what happens. But anyways, the reason I'm just making this is not to gloat, but to say, like, the reality of online versus the reality of the real world. Women are nicer to me online in the evil circles that I partake in online than they are in real life to me in most parts of New England. Now, New Hampshire's tough because it's a tiny area and women are friendly, but they're usually tattooed. But the really good women are usually in monogamous relationships. Already, so that's the difficulty, is they're not, people stay in long-term monogamous relationships, so it's difficult to find somebody who's good and single because people are getting into relationships with those people in New Hampshire. But down here, the women in person are much nicer and friendlier than the people online are. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is the reality right now, my current reality of life, does not match the online propaganda of what's going on. So if like you're following, I don't follow red pill accounts, although I do like to follow what's that chick from Chicago's name, or the British Chicago words, Pearly Things. I like to follow Pearly Things on Twitter. I mean, the amount of tweets that she puts out, I mean, a lot of them are just kind of trolling. I don't watch any of her videos and stuff unless she puts a clip on Twitter. And I see the clips of the whatever podcast with the sex doll and the dude that interviews. He's in Miami. And yes, so if you're down in Miami trying to find a wife, you're an idiot. You're mentally slow and retarded. However, honestly, like maybe I would move down here and be miserable. But I'm setting my business up to be mobile, and I'm really looking at coming back down here and renting an Airbnb for like a month or two, and just going out and seeing what it's like to live down here, because I love the Parkway. I love Blue Ridge. There's so many hiking things. Now, the White Mountains are great in New Hampshire, but this is just amazing. Although, there's probably a lot more tourists down here, so maybe I'm running into tourists as well. And not even tourists, but like, a lot of people that I met were like, oh, we're from 2 hours away, or whatever. Which is, I guess that makes sense, because for me, I'll drive 2 hours to the northern side of the White Mountains. I'm traveling from the south. But anyways, the philosophy that I'm just thinking is, we get caught up in the online metaverse and think that it translates into reality. In a lot of cases, it does. So like online, going out into Massachusetts, Boston, and the surrounding areas, even Providence, they match. But online versus what I've seen over the past couple of days down here in the Carolinas, do not match. The women are nice. They're hanging out with friends and family. They're doing wholesome activities. Now, having said that, I'm also doing wholesome activities. And I did another video talking about when I stopped in either Virginia or North Carolina, where I was sitting at a bar waiting for a pizza. Now, those people did have tattoos, and the guy to my left was swiping on Tinder and showing pictures to the dudes, and there was a date that went bad on my right-hand side. So yes, a lot of it is similar. So it might just be the circles that you travel in. Maybe when I go back to New Hampshire, I got to make more of a point to get further up north, maybe, or, I mean, Concord's not even that big of a city, and I'm not even in the city much, but when I go to like, Manchester and Nashua, New Hampshire are much worse, but I don't know. The women up there are still overweight. That's the other thing too. These women were thin and attractive, didn't have makeup on, didn't have tattoos, and were like tentative. Like the ones that I was in the water with, when I asked her a question, like she jumped up and she like ran over to me and she made eye contact. She was like, well, let me see. And she was like just a fun tomboy that was like splashing out of the water, but still feminine. I don't know. I'm kind of putting these notes for myself because if you stay online too much, you can go to a dark place. And once again, and this happened to me my last trip, is it really restored my faith in the fairer, or not even the fairer, but the weaker of the two, the physically weaker of the two genders. Yes, two of the female. And I don't know. I don't even know what to say. So, tis what it is. I'm gonna turn this video off. I probably never post it, but I just wanted something to, when I watch it, to remind me, because this is crazy.